everybody, it's Dave Kawada. I do Rainbow Wahine basketball, host of In Focus on CBS 1500. And thanks so much for joining us. I hope we have a great time here on your lunch break so you can chat with me a little bit and get to know me a little bit. So thanks for tuning in. Yeah, gee, it makes it sound like a long time, but yeah, I started off, doing high school sports back in 2001, doing a lot of the state tournaments. And I think the benefit of that doing that was you did so many different sports, right? You did football, you did basketball, volleyball, softball. So you ran the gamut and it was a quick study. You made your mistakes, but if you love sports, you get to see it so frequently throughout an academic year, but it was a blast and it still is just a passion of mine. Well, the funny thing is, naturally I was a sports fan, and a friend of mine was working with a guy named Lad Panis, who was independently producing high school radio broadcasts. And my friend was a mutual friend, and for about 3 years, he kept saying, "You should do this. You should do this." I had no desire. I felt like, oh, that's not for me. Then finally, I was doing it just as a favor to my friend who's been bugging me for 3 years, and I met with Lad, and we talked about it, and he said, "Why don't you come and see what it's like?" And I went into the booth at Aloha Stadium, and I tell you what, it's one of those things where he gave me a little, I guess you could say, an audition where I did like a little halftime show of a game, and it just came natural. And then he had to pull me off the headset because I was staying on too long. Then you realize you like it, you love it, and you felt like you're kind of okay with it and you want to pursue it. But I caught the bug, I guess, and it rolled from there. I hope so, because the first game I did as a play-by-play was a girls volleyball state tournament. And in fact, Iolani won. Kanoi Kamanao, who ended up having a great career at University of Hawaii, was the senior setter on that Iolani team, led by Ann Kang, that whole thing. And I remember being like so nervous. And to this day, ironically, I consider volleyball as the toughest sport to do play-by-play, and that was my first one. So aside from, I'm sure I got names wrong, but the pace of volleyball is so hard because you're following the ball. Gravity dictates how you call it. I'm sure if I listened to it, I would have sounded nervous and probably a little stumbling here and there, but I certainly hope I sound a lot better now. So it really was, I know at the time when we started it back in October of 2020, CBS was trying to, rebrand itself from doing sports into what it is now as the news and information station. So I thought this was a good time to kind of try and pitch a local show that kind of fit with that brand, news and information. And it was also of great interest of me to kind of broaden myself professionally beyond just reporting and covering and doing sports, because I do have interest in so many other areas: business, government, politics, and so forth and so on, lifestyle. And this was an avenue to kind of go in that direction, but also thinking of the title In Focus, it was a way to kind of spend a little bit more time with the guests or with a topic that maybe you wouldn't on a regular talk show. Because a lot of times in morning drive or afternoon drive, you kind of go from topic to topic pretty quickly. That's the pace and that's the format of that. But this one could spend a little bit more time. You can kind of go dig in, and hence the title In Focus. And it allows not only the audience, but me to be able to get into different topics, different areas. And really, it's wide open. So I can still do sports, but I can also talk about what's relevant, what's current, and even look ahead and speak to personalities as well and learn about celebrities here in our local community. So I love the fact that it's very wide and it's very now, but also timeless. I remember when I was doing this, and I always said, one of my idols was Al Michaels. And one of his known things in sports was calling the 1980 Winter Olympics a gold medal game, and being known for saying, do you believe in miracles? Yes. And I always wanted to either have some catchphrase or be able to call something at the very last second, like with seconds remaining, So my most memorable was, I think it was 2016 men's basketball. And I was filling in because for Bobby Curran, they were doing those midnight games for ESPN back then. And so it was a midnight game, myself and Jeff Portnoy, and it came down to a last second possession for University of Hawaii. That was the year they would win the Big West title, by the way. So they had a really good team. And I remember it was an inbound play from the full court. They drove it up the near sideline. I think it was 6 seconds left, threw it up the shot, made it in. And I was thinking that was the greatest, first time I got to call a last second play, and also Hawaii winning. So, I mean, I got kind of two birds with one stone.
Do you remember the call? I'm sure you didn't say, "Do you believe in miracles?"
Well, I remember the thing is, like, every time when you have a last second possibility, there's a timeout before. So I remember during the commercial break thinking, okay, I got to set it up and just kind of planning it out in my head, not missing up on anybody's names, but being clear enough that the listener can hear what's going on and know what's going on and not get too caught up emotionally myself. So I do remember the play. The name of the players escaped me a little bit, but I remember the entire play. It came down the near sideline right in front of me. And I remember my adrenaline was pumping because he drove it, the Hawaii point guard drove it right in front of me, coming down as the defenders were coming. And it was 4 seconds of just this intensity that I believe when I listened to it back, it was clear, it was accurate, and I captured, I think, the emotion and the excitement. So I'm always proud of that call.
I think I remember that. I think that was Roderick Bobbitt.
Roderick Bobbitt, right. Yeah. Coming right down, right-hand dribble, right down in front of me. He had a defender right on his left hip, and he took it in. I think he took about a 10-footing runner just before the buzzer sounded and went in to give Hawaii the win. Well, when I got ready to do podcasts, one of the things that I read and I took to heart was your content, whatever your topic, whatever your subject matter, be very passionate about it. You don't have to be necessarily very knowledgeable. You can learn that, but be very passionate, because that's what's going to drive you to do these podcasts. Because, you know, if you want to do it right, you're going to have to invest a little bit and maybe some equipment for sound and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. But you're going to have to spend a lot of time if you're going to edit it, if you're going to do it regular. But there's time involved. And if you want to do it right and do it good, you got to have passion to be able to want to invest the time and the effort and the energy to make it good and make it sound good, and to find the content that you want to put on there, whether it be a guest, whether it be information, whether it be data, whatever it is. So the biggest thing is find that content that you're very passionate about, and then the rest comes in really good. One of the things I like to, first of all, you want to try and find someone that's interesting, right? Either they as a person is interesting, or the topic that they're going to bring to your podcast is interesting. And so that second part, you know, if your podcast is about music and the music industry, obviously someone you're bringing in is going to be, you want someone that's knowledgeable. So what they're going to talk about is going to be comforting. And when anyone talks about something that they know pretty well, they're going to have some confidence. Introduce yourself maybe before, so that they kind of know you before that first interview, whatever, so that they feel more comfortable. Their comfort adds to their confidence. And then I always tell my guests, this is not 60 minutes. I try to make it like fun, like talking story, having a conversation, so that they feel like it's not, oh my gosh, this is an interview. I have to, get buttoned up and make sure I say the right words and don't flub up. But tell them, hey, it's casual conversation, and try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. Well, if you look at one of the keys to success, when Coach Laura Beeman came first back to Hawaii, she had that first 4 years of significant success, 3 consecutive years to the WNIT, and then winning the Big West in the same year the men did, by the way, and making it to the NCAA tournament. And what was successful in those 3 years was that she had players on her team, at least 2, possibly 3, that were real leader personality types. And I think about players like Destiny King, who was a senior on that 2016 conference team. And then just before that, a local product, Shana Lekoehu, who was a very seasoned player because she had spent 6 years in the program due to injury and then a medical redshirt. So she was very seasoned. By the time she graduated, she was like 24, maybe pushing 25. And she got teased as being kind of like the mother of the group. But those two players, they weren't always the best. They didn't score the most points, but they were consistent, hardworking, and they had personalities that I would say when they were on the court, it seemed like the rest of the players knew everything was going to be okay. And when you can have players where it brings up the other players' confidence when they're on the floor, that's what I think has been missing a little bit. Like last couple of years, they've been really young, talent, but young. And I think you just need that seasoned, confident leader to be there to make sure that when they're on the floor, all the other players feel like everything's going to be fine. Oh, dang. Okay. The first one that comes to mind, I got to put on Nani Cockett. She was just, by far as talent, leadership ability, her size, her capabilities. I mean, she was just everything you'd want for a basketball player. Second one is BJ Ituman in terms of that speed, the basketball IQ. To put her on the floor, again, she had the handles, she had the command. Third one I want to put is Shana Lekoehu, what I just mentioned. I mean, she didn't score the most points, but she was consistent, double-digit scoring, 8 to 9 rebounds, no turnovers, about 2 to 3 steals. And again, once she came on the floor, everything was going to be fine. Judy Mosley. I mean, the late Judy Mosley, probably the greatest player, I think, out of all Rainbow Wahine. Number is retired. She brought the program on the map under Vince Gu. And the fifth one, that's a tough one. There's a lot of candidates for that. I'm stuck on the fifth one. If there's another question, I'll come back to it though. One of the biggest things I spend most time in is on the opponent, believe it or not. Not a whole ton of time, like I don't make that so dominant, but I do spend a lot of time on the opponent because they're new to the audience. So you don't know the players, you don't know the coach too well, you don't know some of the background of some of the players and some of the backstory. So I do spend a lot of time reading the media guides, looking on their website, finding out, are they recovering from injury, so forth and so on. I also always stay very fresh. I look on University of Hawaii. I talk to the University of Hawaii coaches, Coach Laura Beeman, maybe an assistant, even a player, just to get some updated things strategically. Maybe some adversity the team has undergone that past week. Was there an injury? Was there someone sick? So will this player now be a little bit under the weather? Those kind of things that can become a factor in the game. And then the third part is the data, understanding and really getting a general handle of statistics. Is our University of Hawaii team on a downward or upward trend in shooting percentage? What are some key numbers that they need to do well in? Are they turning the ball over? And maybe that's something they have to improve on. Those kind of things. So those three elements, the opponent, the updates with your home team, University of Hawaii, and really familiarizing yourself with the stats and the data. Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, okay.
Michael Jackson. First of all, I was a fan of him back when he was heyday of the 80s when I was still in high school. But he was just one of those people that was so weird, that he was so different and so mysterious. Like you just didn't know where he was coming from. With his history as an entertainer, but personally, he just didn't know about things. Okay, what kind of nose does he have? What's wrong with his skin? How come this, that, what is he pissed off at his brothers? All these things, I would have loved to just have lunch with a guy and say, can I talk story with you? And, just get to know you a little bit. He'd be my person.
Okay.
Oh, and I have the fifth Rainbow Wahine player though, by the way.
Give me a hint.
Local product from the Big Island. from Honoka High School, Keisha Kanekoa.
I wouldn't have guessed her. I mean, she was a great guard, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure she flies under the radar, but she was a terrific prep player. But
Mhm.
she played at the University of Hawaii at a time when the teams were struggling, and there was a transition in coaches and things like that. I don't think she was able to really show off her talent. But the coaches at the time, when I spoke to them about her, I mean, terrific IQ, dogged work ethic, and extreme talent when there wasn't too much talent around her. So I put her on there as my fifth.
Okay. Wow. Imagine DJ and Keisha in the same backcourt.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Hey, that's all the time we have. Dave, thank you so much. Hope this was fun for you.
Absolutely. I love it. Thanks so much for having me.